"Victor Fries!" exclaimed Menma happily while shaking the other man's hand. "Mr. Uzumaki. It's good to see you in person," replied Victor with a smile on his face, while keeping up the facade of not knowing this man is the one who saved him and Nora from their own personal hell. "Likewise. How is Nora?" asked Menma while the two sat down in their respective chairs in his office. "Good. The home you provided us here in Metropolis is most generous. I thought we would have to leave the one in Miami for it until your lawyer explained we could have both," said Victor with Menma smiling at him. "You're a good man, Victor. And as such, good men are hard to come by. I want those who work for me to not only be the best, but get the best in return. Your efforts to help Whirlpool Inc. in helping the world become a better place will not be ignored. Not while I run this company. Together we will combat death, diseases, and other illnesses by stopping their one advantage we do not have," replied Menma with Victor nodding. "Time," whispered Victor, firmly knowing things like diseases and illnesses always had time on their side because cures to them were so far away, while those trying to find the cure slowly getting older with each passing year. And the lives of these victims of these things were already taken, with more on the way. "Time. But together we will deliver a serious blow to it. And to death itself," said Menma confidently, while knowing lives would be saved through this venture. "On a different note, I heard on the news you were making a great many waves with your actions. As of late, aside from myself," commented Victor before the two walked through the building to the R floor Victor was assigned.
"Yeah, I have been gathering up former criminals with horrible pasts and giving them a second chance in life. Not only are they cured of their given problems, but I also give them a new life working for me with their given skill set. In short, I give them a new, more profound purpose where they once had none," said Menma calmly with the man beside him nodding.
"Like you did for me," whispered Victor to Menma, who smirked at him before his face went serious. "I saw the tape that made you what you had become. I saw the reason behind your pain and suffering. You are a good man, Victor, and you were in your own hell, and it was not deserved," whispered Menma seriously. "Thank you for freeing us from that hell. I can never repay you. We can never repay you. Still, I will do my best to provide you and your company with all the means to save lives through my skills," said Victor before shaking Menma's hand and entered his new lab to get a feel for the place. "He seems enthusiastic," remarked Mercy, after walking up to her employer lover and seeing Victor working through the glass window. "True. Still, Victor keeps his excitement about his family and work well under control, so I don't have to worry about him going psycho on us. The man loves his work almost as much as he loves his wife. I intend to keep it that way," replied Menma, while the man saw Victor get to know his staff while working. "I hear Harvey Dent is going in for surgery later today to deal with the scarred half of his body," added Mercy, while they walked through the company hallways. "Of course he is getting the surgery. I'm fitting the bill for the best doctors and the latest medical procedures be done here after all. I trust you were able to get in touch with his former fiancée Grace and tell her the good news," asked Menma while Mercy nodded. "She's flying out today. First class," commented Mercy with Menma nodded. "Have a driver sent to the airport to pick her up. Harvey will be very angry with me if he were to find out the woman he loved had to catch a cab over coming here in style to see him. In his mind, she is to be treated like a queen. For the sake of his recovery and their overall happiness, let us not disappoint," said Menma firmly, with Mercy nodding. "Pamela and Harvey have history together. You will need make sure they can work in the same building together without complications," commented Mercy with Menma nodding. "I know. I already discussed that with Pamela. Once Harvey has been healed physically, followed by the mental healing later on, the two will need to sit down to have a serious talk," said Menma with Mercy, cringing at the thought of how that would play out. "It won't be pretty. Harvey might relapse with her around," warned Mercy with Menma making a noise in his throat. "Possibly. It all depends on Harvey and his recovery on a mental level. We will wait until Harvey's mental strength can handle the idea of speaking to Pamela face to face before we get to that point of actual confrontation. I will be there too, so nothing gets out of hand for either of them when the time comes," said Menma, while Mercy only nodded before they entered the elevator and went down a few more floors. Nat Hagen is in the lab we assigned to help with his condition. He wanted to speak to you in person. Possibly to thank you for this opportunity you have given him, added Mercy with Menma nodding.
I figured as much. What is the status of a potential treatment for him? Asked Menma since he asked for Mercy to keep him up to date on Hagen's condition.
Preliminary results show promising results on treating Mr. Hagen. But no one in the lab wants to get too optimistic unless there is solid evidence to feel that way. They all fear disappointing you, and the end result of that disappointment being they all disappear, replied Mercy with a smirk on her face. I'm not Luther. I'm not going to fire them or make them disappear simply for failing to do something when asked, especially when it's not their fault. If the results show it can't be done one way, just have them try it out another way, and another if the next one fails. Every problem has a solution, and I won't give up on Hagen simply because we haven't found the one solution to his own problem yet, replied Menma before they entered the lab and saw the noticeable form of Clayface on a lab table. Mr. Uzumaki, it's an honor to meet you in person, said Clayface while Menma smiled at him. The honor is mine. I'm sorry we haven't met earlier. My schedule was back to back up until now that I couldn't postpone anything long enough to see you. Being the head of a multi-billion-dollar company can surprisingly be a challenge in finding time for those who you should be focusing on, replied Menma with Hagen nodding. Everyone here seems positive they can cure me of my condition. But there is one issue I'm a bit worried about, said Hagen with Menma frowning. What issue? Asked Menma while Hagen hesitated for a second. As you may already know, I used to take some special cream made to mold my face into any shape or form. But I only took it because of my face being scarred and disfigured in a previous accident. I love to act, and no one wants a disfigured man in their movie, unless it's in horror, and they're too cheap to hire someone normal to spend makeup on. To get to the point, I fear once you restore my body, the disfigurements my face once had will now return to haunt me again, said Hagen while Menma looking like he understood. I understand. The cream you took is the only thing keeping them back, and if we were to reverse things back to normal, it would possibly leave you scarred again. Cured of your overall condition you are in now, but not fully healed along the facial area, said Menma while thinking things over. Yes, if that does happen, I don't know what I would do. I want to be cured, but at the same time, I want to be normal looking too, said Hagen while Menma nodded. I understand, Mr. Hagen. Don't worry. If by some chance your fear does come to pass, I will get the best cosmetic surgeons in the world flown here to fix that issue. I intend to see to it that you are cured and healed all in one. Just be patient. All good things come to those who wait, replied Menma with Hagen nodding. You have been straight with me, Mr. Uzumaki. More than I can say for others, Daggett. Batman, everyone has always used me for one thing or another without giving back what they owed. But not you. You are an honest man. Do you know how hard and how rare it is to find an honest man? Until today, I couldn't shape-shift into one, but now I can. You! Thank you for doing this. It means a lot to me, said Hagen with Menma smiling. You're welcome, Mr. Hagen. Now as to curing you, this won't be a simple, yet quick 1-2 process. First, my scientists have to run a series of tests. Some longer than others and in many ways will seem time-consuming or done twice. But these tests are done to make sure everything is done correctly in the process of undoing what made you into this. If this is done correctly, I want it to be done with pinpoint precision. The last thing I want to do is be successful, only to have the procedure have some unforeseen side effect, and we somehow make things worse. So again, if things seem a bit slow during the tests, don't get agitated or angry over waiting. I don't want things done quickly. I want things done correctly, said Menma with Hagen nodding. I understand. And after this, please call me Matt. It's been a long time since someone has called me Matt, replied Hagen with Menma's smile at the man. Sure thing, Matt. I will come by to check up on your progress here in the lab from time to time. And if you ever run into some kind of problem, no matter what it might be, let me know, said Menma before patting the large shoulder of Hagen, and walked away with Mercy. You have some hero worship going on back there, commented Mercy with Menma, now smirking for a second before it went serious. Bite your tongue, Mercy. How are we doing in terms of public opinion? I hear some news media outlets and a few newspapers have been less than nice about me, said Menma with mercy, sighing since it was true. At the moment, the majority of the public is on your side. They are mainly unsure of you using former criminals to advance the company further. If we were able to provide them with something in the near future in terms of results, it will no doubt ease their minds and cast away their fears, said Mercy before they eventually entered his office. I agree, but progress cannot be rushed, Mercy. Even to appease the masses demanding I give them immediate results. At Whirlpool Inc., we don't do things quickly. We do them correctly. That is our motto here at the company now, Mercy. Not the rush a new product out the door and hope it doesn't blow up and we have to call the lawyers. Motto? Luther embraced because he found it to be a much cheaper policy to handle over making sure it didn't happen at all, commented Menma, while Mercy agreed with him on that since Lex had done that in the past. And it would have backfired if not for army of lawyers he hired to drown defendants in paperwork until their resources ran dry. That cybernetic power suit for the police made a few years back by Mr. Henry Irons had been one such an instance, and Luther paid a lot of hush money with his deep pockets to make it go away. On another side note, General Lane called here asking for a sit-down. He wants to talk about future military contracts with us with some of the old toys we still have in storage, said Mercy with Menma grumbling. Of course he does. General Lane wants weapons. Weapons that Luther made and wants me to give to him for a decent price. No doubt the ones capable of killing Superman and his cousins. He can't get them at Wayne Enterprises or Star Labs, so he goes where they are locked away in storage awaiting to be dismantled before the action to dismantle them is given, remarked Menmo, while knowing he had those weapons in storage and was planning to take them apart with their components being recycled for alternative uses. Should I tell him no to a sit-down? Asked Mercy with Menma, thinking things over in his head. No, it would be rude and he will no doubt see it as such. Give him some time next week, but tell the general the meeting will be short. I don't want to entertain the warmonger any longer than necessary, replied Menma with Mercy, raising an eyebrow at him. Did you have a bad experience with someone like him? Asked Mercy with Menma shrug. The boss did. His name was Danzo. Someone who believed everyone and everything was his enemy. All he wanted was war with other people, not of our village simply due to them not being born in our village. Danzo trained an elite ninja division called Root, but they were all mindless, emotionless drones, who obeyed him without question due to their extreme conditioning. They couldn't do anything without his expressed approval or given command. He even killed allies simply because the man thought they would be a threat to our village in the far distant future, and wanted their strongest people taken out before that time, replied Menma with calmly. What happened to him? Asked Mercy with Menma smirking. Let's just say the bastard was a sore loser, and decided to blow himself up, rather than be judged by others he deemed weak, when compared to his way of thinking. The man did not like being judged by others, and thought himself the closet's thing to being a god as humanly possible. Mainly because he didn't care about humanity on an emotional level, and just wanted to rule over it with an iron fist under the ends justify the means, or the greater good bullcrap you hear about from people when asked why they do the things they do, replied Menma, while Mercy was surprised by this. And General Lane fits this Danzo's personality? Asked Mercy, curiously. In almost every single way, Mercy. Which is why I, or rather the boss, will take a great deal of pleasure in ending his life in the near future. The moment he tries something stupid against him, remarked Menma in a deadly calm tone. Wayne Manor living room. Bruce. Wayne just stared at Talia. She was across from him in a comfortable chair with a simple table between them. Alfred was not here. He had provided tea and cookies, as was his duty, to provide treats for guests, before Bruce had him leave in the off chance this got violent. That scowl on your face does not suit you, my beloved. It makes you look old. Too old, in fact, said Talia while she had accepted the tea, and one of the cookies Alfred provided. Considering who I am talking to and what happened, can you blame me? Asked Bruce almost coldly. Actually, I can blame you because it was your attitude and your way of thinking that made me keep our son from you, answered Talia while Bruce growled. He's your son. I don't even know the boy because of you, countered Bruce, while Talia scowled now. as if you would have tried to know him. I know you well, beloved, too well. I knew if you ever found out, the boy would be taken from me, and would be here instead. Do not think for one moment that I do not know how you would behave in this instance. Bruce, you would have denied me the right to ever see him again. Talia shot back while Bruce did not say anything about that accusation, since it was most likely true. Has he been trained to be like you? Asked Bruce with Talia's eyes softening a little. Only to defend himself. And before you ask, I trained him. Not my father. Not any of his men. Just me, answered Talia, while Bruce calmed down a bit. Lethal or non-lethal skills? Asked Bruce with Talia looking away. Non-lethal skills for now, but I was planning to eventually train him on the other in a few more years, when his mind and body matured to understand the concept of taking a life, replied Talia, knowing Bruce did not like the idea of his son being trained to spill blood. To become your father's heir, surmised Bruce, while Talia scowled. I keep telling you my father knows nothing of Damien. I have spent my time spread thin doing everything I can to protect my son from my father's influence. Had my father had his way, Damien would be every bit the monster you feared I would turn him into after all this time, and bringing you over to his side against your will, said Talia, while Bruce clearly didn't believe her in the slightest. He still could be the monster I fear your father would turn him into, Talia, commented Bruce, while Talia was a breath away from throwing the teacup at him. How will you know unless you meet him? Talk to him. Get to know him, asked Talia, while Bruce grimaced, since he had a feeling Alfred would push for him to meet the boy. When? Asked Bruce with Talia smiling again. A few days from now. Gotham City Park, answered Talia, while Bruce nodded. No tricks, Talia. I mean it, warned Bruce, while Talia frowned at him again. I am many things, Bruce, but I would never risk my child or use him as a pawn in some game I wish to win. I am not my father in that regard, countered Talia before she left. Your charm at swooning women has not lost its potency, Master Bruce, said Alfred as he came back, and watched the woman leave the house. I can't trust her, Alfred. For all I know, the child has been trained to get close and kill me in my sleep, for God's sake, remarked Bruce, since he wouldn't put it past Talia or anyone else the boy had been trained by. Do you really believe that, sir? Or are you only using it as an excuse to not know the boy beyond what you know? Questioned Alfred, with Bruce scowling at him. I'm just preparing for the worst-case scenario here, Alfred. Somebody has to prepare for it, answered Bruce before he went to the Batcave to change. Even after all this time, no matter what talents or skills you possess, you are still a novice in the ways of family and knowing love, Master Bruce, thought Alfred sadly to himself. Hopefully, this boy would be a godsend to the Wayne family, or what was left of it. Metropolis Penthouse Suite. Kara was eating with her clone Galatea and the sorceress Talia, with a massive blush once again on her face, while trying not to glance at the slightly open bedroom door. She did not know what to expect shortly after being part of this harem. But this was not it. She didn't even know how she joined in the first place. It seemed so weird. One moment, Kara was resisting the sight of Naruto having sex with all the women around him. The next instant, she was part of it, and been told the basics of what was expected in being part of this group of women. It was quite a surprise to her that she was being semi-forced into a relationship with this now revealed to be ancient primordial god, which of course now explained some things, of a man who also claimed to be a super pervert too. How, on a more serious note, he could no longer tolerate how humanity was destroying itself, drowning in corruption. All the while those who swore to combat this evil never finished what was started, and let the current system the corruption influenced deliver the final say. How Naruto was going to balance out the good and the evil, with neither one being overpowering in terms of one dominating over the other, to make things worse. Too much good made people lazy, soft, naive, and ignorant in the belief that evil in all things were ultimately weak, thus not to be taken seriously. Such ignorance left the world open to being attacked or blindsided by something they should have seen coming, but did not because of their ignorance. Too much evil was, well, it kind of spoke for itself. It led to pain, suffering, torture, enslavement, death, and the worst-case scenario, the planet's overall destruction. Most likely done by evil people who would do it simply out of some spite for someone else they hated. Neither option was suitable in Naruto's opinion, and Kara reluctantly agreed with him on different levels. Speaking of Naruto, the sounds of loud, pleasurable screams could be heard from two different women in the bedroom. The other two women beside Kara were also eating, but didn't sport the blushes since they were used to this type of thing, and chose to ignore it for now. Kara herself was wondering just how they could ignore the sounds of Starfire and Harley being taken by Naruto. And why was the door even open? If Kara didn't know any better, she would think Harley had kept it open purposely, so the sounds of the threesome could be heard by the others. Or possibly just by Kara since she didn't have her super hearing back yet, or the rest of her powers. She was still on the don't quite trust you to tell the Justice League about us part of this harem type of relationship, so the seal Naruto had placed, to her complete and total embarrassment, on her butt kept them from working. "Someone is horny," commented Galatea with a smirk. "I am not," protested Kara while giving Galatea a glare. "Don't be like that, dear. Denial is not healthy." "Trust me," said Talia simply with a smirk of her own. "I am not in denial," protested Kara while Galatea's smirk grew. "Says the woman with a growing wet spot now forming between your legs and staining her new panties," commented Galatea since she used her eyes to see through the table. "Why you, fumed Kara while having no real defense against Galatea's words since they were, to her shame, quite true. And it would only embarrass her further if she tried to fight it. "You got to give it to Harley. Her libido is pretty high," commented Talia calmly while hearing some profanity coming from the other room, and knew it was the woman. "She has been repressed for years under the clown's thumb. All work and no play makes Harley a crazy woman." "Well, crazier than usual," said Galatea, knowing from her time in Cadmus that Joker was considered one of her future targets for them to kill when the time came to bring down the hammer on the criminal underworld, once the Justice League had been taken down. One final scream from both women and one male were soon heard with the faint sound of three people breathing heavily. A short while later, Naruto came out drying himself off, following a nice quick shower, and grinned at the three women who finished putting the dishes away after they were done eating. "You spoil us. You do know that, right?" asked Galatea with a smirk before glancing at Kara, who was averting her eyes from his lean, muscled body and blushing at the sight of him. "Should I not spoil you? Leave you twisting in the wind?" asked Naruto with amusement before sitting down on the nearby couch and sighing with the TV turned on. "Hell no. When I want sex, you better damn well give it to me," exclaimed Galatea with her eyes burning with passion and a bit of fury at the very idea of being denied any sexual pleasure. Naruto let out a small chuckle knowing he turned the woman into a sex-crazed woman at times, and honestly didn't care so long as he wanted it from. With a small sigh, the blonde-haired man switched to the news and saw something that caught his eye. And in recent news, Whirlpool Inc. CEO Uzumaki Menma has officially announced his company's controversial Special Criminal Rehabilitation Program. This unique program is designed to help certain criminals with superpowers find a new life for themselves by having their powers removed. Upon becoming a normal human being, Whirlpool Inc. sets up each person with employment depending on the skills they had prior to their life of crime. While many think it is a good way for criminals with powers to be reintegrated back into society, there are some who feel this action is not only wrong, but should not happen in the first place. One General Sam Lane of the United States military spoke out earlier this week about such a program brought about trouble for the United States. The scene changed from the anchorwoman to the firm, yet elderly appearance of General Sam Lane in his crisp 4-star general ranked uniform with an angry scowl on his face. "This program weakens our country. Such criminals should be handed over to the United States military for service. To fight for the country they constantly undermine to pay off their debts for the harm they cause its innocent citizens. Not take away their powers and then employ them once released back into society. What about all the innocent lives these criminals ruined? All of the families? This is not justice. It is an injustice, and I intend to make sure this program is no longer running using corporate sponsorship, where loyalty to a country is paper thin based on the company paycheck to the employee." The screen switched back to the anchorwoman. Harsh words from a harsh man. General Lane himself is no stranger to providing ideas considered to be controversial in nature. The general himself has long since supported a more government-controlled program, similar to what Uzumaki Menma is providing. But the difference between them is where those with powers, regardless if they are criminals or not, are immediately drafted for military service. However, such a radical proposal has constantly been turned down by the President of the United States on the grounds that it infringes on the civil rights of those who just want to try living a normal, honest life, regardless of their abilities. Mr. Uzumaki could not be reached for comment at the time, as he was not around to be interviewed regarding General Lane's comments. Sighing at the news in front of him, Naruto turned off the TV and went into full-blown serious mode about how to deal with the annoying general. On one hand, he could just kill the man, but that would bring a lot of heat down on him in his ninja persona. And he didn't need that. Amanda Waller would no doubt use him as a martyr to convince the President of the United States to fund Cadmus, or a Cadmus organization clone knockoff of sorts, until the original could get up and running again. Maybe even going so far as to get Luther out of jail to work for it in an unofficial capacity to further keep him on a tight leash. The man was wanted by every civilized country in the world, and the United States wasn't about to hand him over to anyone else, knowing full well some would try to milk Luther's brilliant, yet slightly delusional mind for all it was. Another means of getting rid of General Sam Lane would be to find and release all of his dirty secrets he did back in the day, all the way up until now to the media, which would involve Cadmus and any other nasty unsanctioned organizations he was currently a part of that shouldn't even exist. Of course, in doing that, Naruto could easily get right on the Justice League's radar, and Batman was no doubt itching to send other heroes after him, despite the "do not look for me," or "your friends and loved ones will die" threat lingering over him. The man didn't know how to let go of things, and that was something Naruto believed would be his downfall if he wasn't careful. And Naruto certainly couldn't ask any of the women in his life to do it. Kara wouldn't kill the general. Talia might, but she would be spotted a mile away, and the Justice League had several mystics in their ranks who could sense magic. And it wouldn't take long for Batman to eventually discover Talia in some manner. Pamela and Harley were out since one was on probation, and the other was in hiding with him. Starfire was out because she was supposed to be in exile at an undisclosed location, a tropical island, away from all of this and get the Justice League's attention. Galatea was out because she officially did not exist, and while the files pertaining to her were destroyed when he first took her, the risk of sending them was too great, given Waller would suspect something if she did her own bit of digging. A sudden impact of memories hit Naruto from his shadow clone at Whirlpool Inc., and his frown increased further. Apparently, the general had said quite a few choice words to Menma at their short meeting, and none of them were flattering. There was even words from the angry general saying things you can't take back, namely about how he wished the United States had more atomic bombs back during World War II and just launched them all over Japan to wipe out the entire country. Racist much? Shortly after that little moment in time happened, someone tried to assassinate the shadow clone, namely the assassin known to the world as Deadshot. The man not only missed, but was seen by Menma before relaying all the memories to Naruto mentally without dispelling. Naruto made a mental note to make the assassin pay for that, since he considered such a move, and the general who no doubt hired him for not giving the military hard-ass of a man what he wanted. And what did the man want? Access to DNA samples of Matt Hagen when he was still looking like Clayface, Victor Fries before he was cured of his condition, and of course, a fresh DNA sample from Pamela for his own scientists to examine. Menma had turned him down, of course, saying those samples were either destroyed or unattainable, since the last would violate the privacy of one of his employees. Naturally, General Sam Lane was not a man who took no for an answer, regardless of the reasons given, and was incredibly angry with his obstacle standing in the way by the name of Menma. Deadshot was merely a means to remove said obstacle from office, and put someone the general could trust into position to take over. Naruto mentally commanded Menma to discreet dig around to find out who were the most likely candidate who would take over if the shadow clone were to die, and find out how they were connected to Lane. It was also quite clear that this man, who was being rude and an egotistical dick all in one, needed to be removed from play. Normally, Naruto would just end him quickly, quietly, and without a care in the world how people reacted. But this time, it needed to be done in a violent and public setting. Screw getting on the Justice League's radar and even the US government. It was high time to kick some more ass. Uzumaki, Naruto style. General Sam Lane's residence 3 weeks later. General Lane sat in his office at home drinking scotch from his scotch glass. No ice. He wanted the burning alcohol to flood his mouth and system with its mind-influence power. He had removed his coat and had it on a hanger in the closet, while sitting down in the nice leather chair worthy of his rank as a 4-star general in the military. The room was dark with no lights on, but the day was sunny outside with the light shining in various places through the blinds of the windows in the room. As to why he was drinking so late like this, it was quite simple. General Sam Lane, 4-star general, patriot of the United States military, and overall defender of his nation, had been relieved of military duty. Dishonorable discharge. He was no longer a high-ranking 4-star general in the military. Not anymore. It was all over the papers for the last 2 weeks. One moment, General Sam Lane was at his assigned military base, at his assigned desk when 2 MPs came into the room with a JAG officer and had him arrested right there on the spot for various criminal military charges of a sensitive nature. For the last 2 weeks, General Lane had to sit in a courtroom, hear damaging evidence to his career, his character, and as a soldier of his country. Evidence which was provided by an anonymous source who dropped everything off at JAG, and no hint as to who did it. The general's hired attorney tried to defend him as best he could, given the damaging evidence in hand aimed against his client. But in the end, the case was hopeless, and all Sam Lane could do was cut a painful deal that kicked him out of the military without any jail time out of respect for his years of loyal service. Fortunately, the majority of the trial was all hush-hush due to the sensitivity of his case, and reporters were kept away. But the media wanted to know, and what they couldn't know, they speculated. From speculation, there were rumors, accusations, and ultimately people deciding he was guilty outright before long, without even knowing the whole story behind it. So much for innocent until proven guilty. Of course, the general wasn't one to talk since he thought Superman, along with the other heroes of the Justice League, were guilty of some past misdeed in their own way. He never cared for the reason behind Superman's sudden attack on Earth, thanks to Darkseid brainwashing the Kryptonian. It was just an excuse the former general needed to begin his war against the aliens, the freaks, and all the other non-human entities his world was producing. Sam Lane could see the world had changed drastically since he was a young private in the army, eager to take up the sword, or gun in this case, against America's enemies. Kill them all and let the one true God who loves America sort it out. That had been his mindset then, and it was his mindset now. All these meta-humans he had seen popping up were unnatural. Nature making mistakes and playing mad scientist with the human body that would ultimately doom the nation, if not the world, with their powers. On one hand, he wanted to destroy them all. Aliens, meta-humans, and freaks with dangerous powers thinking they could pretend to be normal. Sam Lane had no intention of pretending with these people. If they were going to live and have powers, they were going to be put to work. They were all resources in his eyes. They were tools, weapons of war, dogs of war. His weapons, his dogs. In his mind, Sam Lane believed all of them should be trained and kept alive for a single purpose: to make America the dominant, if not the only country on the planet. If not for some of his more questionable assignments and past military record, uncensored to the fullest, the now former general would have run for president and given his country the teeth it deserved. Sadly, such things were but a dream now, out of reach or never even a possibility. I thought I made it clear to you and Waller that your time trying to run things, whether alone or together at Cadmus, was over, commented Naruto in his ninja attire, before he stepped out of the shadow in the corner and sat down in the chair opposite of the general. A good soldier does not submit to the enemy. He fights with all his being against his enemy. Sam Lane shot back with Naruto nodding. That they do, but you aren't a good soldier, Lane. Not anymore. Though given your own military history, I doubt you could be called either, said Naruto, while Sam Lane scowled and reached for his gun hidden within his desk. You have no right to judge me for my past actions. I did what was right for America. My country had to be protected from all possible threats, said Sam Lane, while Naruto just scoffed at him. Not from the stuff I read from your file. Love how you tried to find a way to locate the ancient Amazon island, Themyscira, after Wonder Woman made herself known. I knew you believed in God, but surely you don't believe in the whole. All other religions should be cast down, do you? Doesn't matter. Still, I highly doubt your plan, upon being even remotely successful, would work in sending a few black ops teams there to assassinate the Queen of the Amazons, and make it look like the Banna tribe was responsible. I mean, you wanted to plunge the Amazons into a civil war, have them kill each other to the point where they were too weak and too confused from the fight that you could send an entire military force there to take them out under the disguise of humanitarian aid. A real-life Trojan horse maneuver, if there ever was one. All the troops, butcher all the remaining Amazons, and letting you make up any story you want. In the end, you would claim the ancient relics, if not the natural resources of the island, for the United States, without anyone from the other countries possibly knowing. Turning it into some secret military base, purge the island of anything deemed unnatural in your eyes, and ultimately rape the island of all its wonderful greatness, said Naruto before Sam Lane drew his weapon and prepared to fire, only to find his hand severed at the wrist and crying out in pain. "My hand, you bastard!" exclaimed Sam Lane, while clutching his wrist tightly to keep himself from dying of blood loss. "Don't be so overdramatic. You lost a hand, boo-hoo. Do you know how many times I lost a limb and had to wait for it to grow back? Plenty? Besides, you were being a dick, and I don't appreciate it in the slightest. Second, you shouldn't have pulled a gun on me. And finally, third, you shouldn't have hired Deadshot to assassinate Uzumaki Menma simply because he wouldn't submit to your demands to alter the program he set up, or fund a new version of Cadmus in secret," replied Naruto, while Sam Lane painfully glared at him with a mixture of shock and anger. "Even if you take me in, you can't prove anything," protested Sam Lane, with Naruto just scoffing at him. "Prove it. Do I look like the police, the Batman, Superman, the Justice League? No. I am none of the people who would gather the physical evidence first before moving in on you to let the courts decide. I am the court. I am the judge, jury, and executioner to those who stand before me. I already know it was you because the timing was too damn convenient once your meeting with Uzumaki Menma ended. I have already found the link between you and the small handful of people in Whirlpool Inc. who can possibly replace Menma upon his death, and who you chose among them to do it. Suffice to say, he won't be returning any of your calls anytime soon in the future," replied Naruto smugly, while Sam Lane grit his teeth in pain. "You will pay for this. I have friends, powerful friends. If you think they will just stand by and let you kill me," said Sam Lane, while stopping when the pain spiked. "And who are these powerful friends of yours, Mr. Lane? Luther, Waller? One is in jail, and the other will not doubt be investigated soon enough, since she was seen with you not that long ago eating together at a high-class restaurant," replied Naruto, with Sam Lane's eyes narrowing. "How did you know that?" demanded Sam Lane, while Naruto smirked behind his mask. "I have my sources. Now, in regards to your wicked ways, and what you did to earn my ire in the first place, I had hoped the military courts would throw the book at you with the force of an atomic bomb. But sadly, they failed to deal with them, and of course the military court agreeing to it, even though they had a slam-dunk case. I think Waller called in a marker to make them accept the plea, since only she has that kind of juice, and doesn't want your trial to open up an investigation into her. I think it is only fair that you die here in this office, suffering a painful and dishonorable death befitting a former military man in disgrace," said Naruto before throwing his tanto hidden in his right sleeve via a hidden seal there. The blade hit true and pierced Sam Lane right through the forehead and out the back, with the force behind the throw being enough to bring it all the way to the hilt. The blade of the tanto itself had pierced the back of Sam Lane's head and sprayed the now dead man's brains out the back. Gory stuff, to be sure, but effective all the same. It was just a shame no one would know the truth behind what happened in this room. As much as he wanted to claim credit for the former general's death, Naruto knew that was not an option for him. Waller would take this act in killing the man as a personal insult to Cadmus, and herself in the process, thus resulting in her doing something drastic, and there was good chance of it coming up good for her, and bad for him depending on who she looked to ally with in the future. So with that in mind, Naruto easily damaged some electrical wiring in the room, and with a small explosive seal around it, triggered a small fire that was spreading throughout the office slowly. But noticeably, the single smoke alarm in the hallway would have went off if not for the fact it didn't have any batteries within it, thanks to the former general taking them out years ago. His late wife had gotten the thing in case of a fire erupted within the house due to his past cigar smoking habit and leaving his cigars lying around with the risk of something catching fire being hot. He had stopped after some considerable effort, and only after his wife died of lung cancer. But at the time, Sam Lane had gotten rid of the batteries in the smoke detector without his wife noticing, mostly due to the fact she was more focused on Lois, and later on battling the cancer. Now, no one would know something was wrong until the neighbors saw the smoke and decided to call the fire department, though that might take a while longer than expected since the neighbors never liked Sam Lane, or his arrogance at times when they met him at the neighborhood Christmas parties. Always walking around in his military uniform each time, showing off his medals, bragging about his accomplishments, putting people down if they said something he didn't agree with, and other hurtful things. The only reason the people at the neighborhood Christmas party always tolerated him was of his wife and their daughter Lois. But now one was sadly dead, and the other moved away while not being on speaking terms with her father. As far as the neighbors were concerned, they didn't see anything, hear anything, or smell anything coming from the Lane house when the fire finally became more noticeable. Unknown location. Deadshot's hideout. Deadshot cried out in pain. He didn't expect this to happen. The contract was simple and gave out decent pay that was good enough for him to take it. Kill Uzumaki Menma in his office at the behest of his client, and make sure it sends a clear message to the man's future successor to never say no to General Sam Lane. Only for it to go sideways on him. It was a straightforward assassination job. Easy target through some clear windows, no obtrusions blocking the target from his sniper scope, and one bullet aimed at the target's skull. He waited for the meeting, which was short in his opinion, with the 4-star general to be over, and waited 5 minutes before pulling the trigger. With the silencer attached to his state-of-the-art sniper rifle muffling the noise and the distance he was at, Deadshot could have easily killed a lot of people below, or in the office buildings before anyone realized what was going on. It was almost a shame he didn't have more time or bullets to test that theory. It was at this point that the contract went sideways on him, as the bullet he fired did not hit his target, but was stopped by some state-of-the-art bulletproof glass designed to stop bullets, just like the one aimed at killing the young CEO of Whirlpool Inc. What was even worse and slightly more frightening was the fact Uzumaki Menma did not look the least bit surprised by this, but rather annoyed. The man even turned to look in Deadshot's direction and mouthed the words, "You better run," like he was going to come after the assassin personally. Right now, Deadshot suspected that was a distinct possibility given he was pinned to the wall, like he was crucified with swords piercing both his hands, both his feet, one buried deep in his left shoulders, and one mean-looking knife along the lower right portion of his ribcage. The attacker, dressed as a ninja, had followed him back to his temporary base of operations when Deadshot fled the scene of his failed assassination attempt. The ninja himself struck him by surprise and without remorse. Deadshot had fired bullet after bullet at the masked man, but the ninja easily blocked bullets from his machine gun, not unlike Wonder Woman did with her damn bracelets. Only he walked forward without fear, and did it like this was nothing before slicing through Deadshot's machine gun. By that point, the ninja said something in Japanese, and the next thing Deadshot knew, he was flying back into the wall behind him that practically broke his back in multiple places. And since that moment, the master shooter assassin had been at this masked ninja's not-so-loving care, and unmerciful assault on his body ever since with few breaks. "No more. Please, no more," pleaded Deadshot while biting back the pain. "And I should stop? Why?" asked the ninja in a kitsune mask. "I told you everything you wanted. The who, the what, the why, and the when. The whole 9 yards," gasped Deadshot with the masked ninja, nodding. "True, but that just leaves one pipeline of information to run dry. I want to know more," said the masked ninja. "More?" asked Deadshot with a hint of dread in his voice. "Yes, more. I want to know everything you know, Deadshot. Names of targets, the dates they were killed, the payment methods used, the clients who hired you, and everything else under the sun. And for every lie you tell, half-truth, not to mention outright refusal to answer me when asked a question. I will hurt you. I will break you, mind, body, and even your very soul. I'm not a member of the Justice League who believe in letting the prisons or courts of law deal with you. I'm not Batman with his no-killing policy. I'm the kind of guy who has no problem getting his hands dirty and bloody. So I suggest you start talking to me as if you want to live past this key point in time where you currently stand on the precipice of life. And death, said the ninja coldly while staring Deadshot right in the eye. And naturally, Deadshot talked like his life literally depended upon it. Which it did. Or at least he thought it did, but in truth Naruto wasn't going to let him live past this time. Even if he did live, the wounds sustained from the interrogation had lasted too long in terms of being treated, and the man would die from infection or blood loss. Whichever came first. Chapter 11. Wondrous Bedfellows. Amanda Waller was in her office in Washington, D., and had a scowl so severe, it would seem that the slightest thing would set her off. She had been deep in thought for what was possibly the longest time in her career in the world of shadowy operations. Reading every report after uncensored report placed on her desk about what was happening around her, and made the serious woman increasingly angry. And rightfully so, given how Lex Luthor was in jail, while the now former General Sam Lane had been found dead in his own home. Reports were conflicting from murder to that of possible suicide due to his recent disgrace from the military. But Waller knew it was flat-out murder. You don't spend years in this business of shadowy espionage like she did to know when someone was murdered, but made it seem like it was something else. She knew General Lane well. He was man of military discipline, no matter what happened to him, and she knew that Lane would not take his life over the scandal that cost him his military career. She had called in quite a few favors to make the former general's crimes get swept under the rug, with the price being the man lose his rank in the military, his pension, and just about everything else that made Sam Lane a 4-star general. Not that it mattered, since Waller was going to place the man in the private sector with a PMC currently overseas, and run by someone she knew and owed her a favor. Plus, it would just mean trading in one favor from someone she knew to gaining another from Sam Lane when necessary. But now, with the former general's death, it was a moot point. She had considered springing Lex from prison and hiding him away somewhere to run some secret projects for her, but the man wasn't truthworthy. Not only that, but the man was wanted in almost every single country, and she wouldn't have many friends in those places if Luthor got free, only to reside in a part of their nation. The risk of being found out and burning quite a few bridges just for one man, no matter how brilliant said man was when compared to others, was worth freeing from prison. But she needed allies. This ninja and rumored subordinates were becoming a problem for her, and threatened everything she believed in. But who could she recruit to helping her? There is only one person I could gain some measure of allied support from. But would he consider allying with me? And if he did, for how long? Thought Amanda Waller while thinking very carefully about this plan forming in her mind. Metropolis Naruto's penthouse home. Kara was in the shower. She needed it after the long, tiring session with Naruto in terms of training on how to fight without relying on the superior super strength she usually had thanks to the yellow sun. Kara had protested at first, saying she was pretty good already, having trained somewhat in self-control, and thought she was a pretty good fighter from the videos on it that she watched a few times when practicing in her apartment. Naruto found it to be amusing, and decided to test that theory by having her spar with him using some of her powers after he evaluated her without them. He had pointed out that there were ways, as rare as they were, to take away her ability to use them, and relying on such powers was not a smart thing in his mind. Kara had countered, saying her cousin was the same way, but Naruto shot back saying Superman had improved over the years from his time protecting others and training with Wonder Woman, a seasoned warrior in her own right. Not to mention with the Man of Steel's impending wedding, it made only more sense to train more to stay strong and be constantly ready to defend what he loves. Reluctantly, she agreed with him before the two sparred without powers, and then with a few of them to see how she fought against someone with powers. Namely, the super strength, speed, and a certain level of flying off the ground. No heat vision or super cold breath, not yet. Naruto wanted her to work for them. So the two of them sparred in a room he altered dimensionally to see if she had the stuff in matching him in terms of taijutsu, as he called it. To further make it more fun, for him at any rate, Naruto placed a little side bet where the loser had to leave the room naked and get their ass smacked by Harley 30 times with her lovely new paddle for a toy she called Smack Smack. Of all things, Kara only agreed to that because she honestly thought her powers would give her an edge against him when unleashed and wanted to get some payback against Naruto. I don't care what he says, I would have won if I had been allowed to use all my powers, thought Kara, while she gently rubbed her sore butt with the warm water being soothing to all her pains. Naruto had proven without question that he was indeed the superior fighter, just as he was a super pervert with women. The man easily bested her ability to fight him with, and without powers. She knew it was impossible to win against someone like him without the use of powers, but when she had powers, the results had surprisingly, in Kara's mind, had been the same. He easily blocked, dodged, or countered every punch and kick she tried hitting him with, all the while having that perverted smirk on his face. The jerk smirked like that deliberately knowing it would piss me off, thought Kara at the memory of his face just taking in the sight of her in uniform working up a sweat. How he commented the shirt when soaked could allow him to see through it and enjoy the wonderful view of her still growing breasts being seen. Naruto also remarked how he hoped they would be as big as Galatea's or possibly Power Girl's bust. Naturally, Kara had become angry at his perverted comment and tried to hit him with a one-punch, two-kick combo. But the man easily dodged the punch, the first kick, and caught the second kick with her being held in an awkward angle. The said awkward angle caused her short skirt to bunch up along her hips, so the white panties she wore had been exposed, which he lecherously mentioned almost immediately, and made Kara wish she had her heat vision to blast him. In the end, Naruto had beaten her in taijutsu without breaking a sweat. And per their own agreement bet, the loser walked out naked for Harley to wail on the said loser's butt, with her trusty Smack Smack in hand. I don't know if I should be embarrassed or aroused by what happened, Kara questioned out loud to herself. I say you should be aroused. It is not shameful to be aroused when it is done by a proper sexual partner, commented Starfire happily, who surprised Kara by entering the shower and having heard the question. Starfire, what are you doing here? I am taking a shower, exclaimed Kara with a sense of embarrassment. Despite the fact both women had seen each other naked before, and in much more intricate positions when naked.